Okay, welcome. So today's session, again, ready, set, hack, building the cyber skills and culture with Capture the Flag. My name is Ahmad Javed. I am the cybersecurity business analyst here at the Alliance. And welcome everyone. Okay, so land acknowledgement. As we proceed with the webinar session today, it is with the acknowledgement that the First Nation, Inuit, and Métis nations and communities have been harmed by colonial and unethical research and of the data sovereignty and research priority of these nations and community. On behalf of the Digital Research Alliance of Canada, we commit to understanding and taking up the role in reducing harm and advancing reconciliation in the research. Some code of conduct. So Alliance seeks to provide a welcoming, safe, and engaging community for everyone. Discriminatory language is not appropriate in any venue or platform. Alliance does not tolerate any harassment in any form. Harassment is understood as a behavior that threatens another person or group or produces unsafe environment. We thank you all in advance for your ongoing support and efforts to keeping the environment safe and welcoming for everyone. Okay, in today's session, we have three presenters from McMaster University. We have Jessica Blackwood, we have Greg Atkinson, and Tim Phillips. So Jessica and Greg are full-time IT professionals at McMaster University. Jessica works in the Faculty of Science, and Greg works with the Central IT. Their work and their offices support activities like risk management, teaching, administration, research. Tim is a McMaster student who has served as a co-op term with McMaster University and has worked with Jessica and Greg and other colleagues to introduce a new type of gamified cybersecurity education. So with this, I will hand it over to the presenters. Over to you guys.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'm going to grab that screen share now. Can everybody see my slides all right?
Yep, all good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Ahmed, for the introduction. I'm Greg Atkinson, and you know who I'm joined by here. And today we're going to tackle Capture the Flag. We're going to start with a little bit of a variation on that land acknowledgement. McMaster also recognizes that our footprint extends well beyond our campus. We're using cloud services hosted in a variety of Canadian cities and data centers, and our footprint extends well beyond Hamilton, as I'm sure everybody in IT here knows. So, kicking it off, what is a CTF, or Capture the Flag event? And why don't we start by talking about the perspective of the participant? All right, so imagine this. It's Friday at noon, and you have received an invitation to attend a CTF prep call. Comes from a colleague, friend, Jessica. Hey, do you want to do a CTF competition this weekend? Heck yes. But you're not really sure what a CTF is, but there's a promise of doing some cybersecurity challenges together and competing against universities and colleges from around the world. And of course, like most people, you're interested in learning more about security, regardless of your skill level. There's always something to learn. You're interested in networking with your peers, but maybe you're not sure of your security abilities. The idea of joining a team sounds fun and also a great point for starting your CTF journey. So at lunch, the moderator comes on, Zoom call, and welcomes new members. The meeting looks not unlike what we're in right now. And the moderator explains to the audience what CTFs are. They come in a variety of competition formats. They can be individual or they can be team-based. And tonight, the competition that we're participating in is an American-hosted event. Just pick a big college. Carnegie Mellon, Ohio State, Florida State University. We had a lot of fun at Florida State University last year. You know, it's at a big campus, and it's usually run by their cybersecurity team along with some student clubs. And members of the call at noon are directed to the team SharePoint site internal to the university, and they're instructed on how to join the team Discord, where both the competition, the group, and the hosting university communicate with competitors. And the host mentions that there is strictly no discussion of work or school on the Discord. It's learning only. And members of the call who want to join the Discord are encouraged to choose a username for privacy. And we've highlighted one of my favorite usernames right here, Obi-Lan Kenobi. And at McMaster, our team name, if you haven't gathered, is APD 1280. And APD is a bit of a spin on Advanced Persistent Threat, while we are Advanced Persistent Defense. And 1280 is the street address of our university. So if anyone studies cybersecurity and knows what an APT group is, this should be a fun little pun. So the moderator then directs members to the team website, which explains how a Jeopardy style CTF will run. And there's two different types of CTFs that are team-based. There's Jeopardy style and attack and defend. Jeopardy style, as you see right here, has got different sets of tasks or challenges across various categories, which can include cryptography, forensics, reverse engineering. And the goal of each one of these tasks or challenges is to find the flag, which is usually a specific string of text that confirms you've completed the challenge. And this flag can be, let's say, for example, hidden on a server. Your goal is to break into that server and find it. Or maybe it's hidden in the source code of a website. If it's one of the easier, thinking back to Jeopardy, 100-point question categories that you have to get into. And of course, the 500-point, the more tricky categories, those are a little bit harder to find. And scoring is, of course, based on the difficulty of the challenge, and the more points it's worth, obviously, the harder you're going to have to work. But also, the scoring in these events tends to shift over time. The more people that answer the challenge, the less the points are worth. So those 100-point questions could be worth 10 points by the end of the weekend if everybody has solved it. And on the right of the screen, you'll see some examples of two CTF screens, the Jeopardy style interfaces, and also a cute little example of what one of the challenges looked like. It was a song called Le Poisson Steve. But on the left, the green and black one, that was, I believe, from Florida State University. And those are, all the different categories. The ones in green were the ones that we solved. And on the right, that kind of red thematic one was from Purdue University, the Boilers CTF. And it, caters to a variety of different skills and interests. So members in this meeting are reminded that the Teams page has a CTF playbook designed to help learners and experts make the most of AI tools in their pursuit of learning. People are not only guided to use things like ChatGPT or Copilot or, insert your favorite tool, you're encouraged to do it for reasons that we'll get into a little bit later. And we provide a series of prompts, which can be important because if you just start out asking ChatGPT, how do I hack a website? The redaction layer is going to stop you pretty quickly. But if you soften it up to say I'm participating in a cybersecurity challenge, it's a capture the flag event, here's the parameters, it'll give you the answers that you need. So we provide a list of prompts for the various categories. And the competition that we're participating in, the fictitious one, also includes jailbreaking an AI model. And so the latest resource that we've provided is a prompt injection playbook, and it's based on OWASP. So all of the resources that you find in here have some root in good cybersecurity training materials. So as our fictitious competitor, you join the Discord and you send them your username, Canary there in lead speak, and you also share that username to the team lead so that there's accountability. We obviously want to make sure there's a clear separation between the university environment and the learning environment because you are competing against universities from around the world, including occasionally universities in sanctioned countries. And we obviously want to make sure that when we're in the team Discord, we are aware of who's there. So if there is any inappropriate behavior, we can trace it back to an individual. But it's a slightly different, I'd say, fun environment to chat with your peers. The competitor is also reminded that you're responsible for setting up your secure and independent learning environment. Now, thankfully, everyone that comes to these tend to be a nerd, and we like learning. What we encourage people to do is set up their own operating system, Kali Linux or Parrot Linux, ideally on a USB key as a bootable, a separate bootable operating system, or in a virtual machine, and use a VPN. And there were mentors on the team, people that are experts at setting this stuff up that are always willing and able to talk about it, especially the Linux advocates. So at 8 p.m., typically on a Friday night, you sign on Discord and you read about the competition. And the event leader will often create a special voice chat just for the team on Discord. And the chat, as you can see here, is often full of memes and GIFs while we wait for the competition to start. Or in some cases, we throw in a GIF to express our frustration with the puzzle. So the competition starts, and you find the following challenges are available. Web security, which again can involve breaking in. I'm using that in air quotes to a web server, something that's designed to be broken into. It's in a sandbox. And you have to find the flag either in the source code or in the headers or somewhere on the server itself. Cryptography, and I'm going to pronounce this hopefully right, steganography. How are the messages always encrypted, of course, the flag. You have to figure out how to decrypt it. And in most cases, they've chosen a weak encryption algorithm, or in steganography, they've hidden it inside of an image. Reverse engineering, those tend to look like application challenges where you'll have to find somewhere, either in memory or in the source code of the application using decompiling techniques, the flag. Open source intelligence gathering. Oh, there are so many different ways to that can go, and I'll leave that to Jessica later to talk about. But it's generally finding information online or finding the flag in metadata. An example of one that you'll often find is if anyone's familiar with what three words, where you get geo-located, you have to figure out from an image where on Earth it's located, and then you enter those three words as your flag. If you're not familiar with what three words, great app to have before you go off into the wilderness. A popular one that's come up recently, AI jailbreaking, you see that there. And that involves tricking whatever AI model they've set up, maybe it's Llama, into getting around the redaction layer, into providing the flag, which is identified as a piece of sensitive information, getting it to be revealed. Forensics, as the name implies, you would get a disk image and you would have to find the flag somewhere in the computer. And it's, hidden in either through obfuscation or hidden inside of a file. Or network security, that's another fun one. They'll give you a PCAP file, and you have to go, of course, scan through it and know how to filter in Wireshark to find that piece of unencrypted traffic where the flag or perhaps another clue on where to find the flag is hiding. So you join one of the channels to tackle a challenge, and you find that an IT manager from across campus has already found a flag in a reverse engineering challenge and has shared the code and approach in a chat. And that's actually what we've copied and pasted right here. A colleague named Herman found the flag in a challenge called Reverse Engineering Class Struggle and pasted the code that was used to reveal it. So this competition, it runs all weekend. People come and go as they please. Some people stay until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. on a Friday night. That's not uncommon. Others go to bed early and tackle it Saturday morning before the family gets up. But people chip away and use Discord as the place where they share their progress. Here's how far I made it. Here's what I found. Can anybody help me? The goal, of course, capturing as many flags as possible for Monday morning. After the competition ends, the team ends up finishing in a respectable place, and I'm proud to say in our first competition, we beat Moscow's top technical institute as well as several American colleges. It was a real elbows out moment for us, and also proud to beat Moscow's top technical institute because there's a non-zero chance that some of those people we were competing against, well, we'll be competing against them in other ways in the future. The write-ups from the event are then shared in our team Discord chats, the write-ups being the solutions to the challenges. And of course, some are posted in greater detail on our team SharePoint. And then on Monday, the all-staff meeting that all our university IT people start their week with, the results are shared, how we finished, and efforts are, of course, taken to recruit new members. And our team has grown at McMaster exponentially over the last year. We started off with Tim and I, and we're now, I think we've got close to 100 people in the SharePoint who are interested, and close to 50 people in the Discord who compete on an irregular basis, with maybe about a dozen that will show up to every event. So I'd now like to take a minute and reintroduce my peers and invite some perspectives from them. So Tim is a fourth-year engineering student who we were very fortunate to have as a co-op last year. And Tim's co-op spanned my unit, which is the central IT security team, as well as another unit, which is the, I would say, the central research IT team. And Tim is also a student club leader. He helped lead two clubs. I'll let him tell you a little bit about those. They're quite relevant. And he's also still continuing to serve as our CTF coordinator. And Jessica, who will speak after Tim, is a senior science IT employee. She won a national award for Cuccio, I think last year, or was it the year prior, Jessica? 2 years ago, for her accessibility work and knowledge translation work. So Tim, we'll start with you. Pick away at some of these questions here and share your perspective on CTFs.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the introduction and hello everyone. Yeah, so CTFs has just been something that's intrigued me a lot. I'm very much a games person, and being able to be involved in a field that I'm very interested in and then having a gamified version of it really interested me. So that was 100% what my motivation was, and also the opportunity to pick up on concepts from these competitions. Uh, when it comes to my CTF experience, when it's been great. I think most of us have had great experiences, and I guess it's the concept of also building a community behind interests like cybersecurity and seeing people participate together in competitions. Well, when I was just starting off as a student, IT co-op student, and then seeing IT managers work on problems together, that was very refreshing and interesting, seeing their approaches versus other people's approaches. Uh, my experience in building clubs in school has also helped me towards supporting building a community at McMaster. Prior to being a co-op student, I was leading a board game society at McMaster where we had about 30 to 40 students showing up every week playing board games, playing a collection of board games that we owned. We had about 60 to 70 board games. So students would come by, pick up a board game and just play it, played weekly. Uh, from that, I found that once I started developing an interest in cybersecurity, that there was a lack of any space of any club that actually represented cybersecurity, and I was able to apply and rat, rat, ratify a club this year. So we have a cybersecurity club going on where we try meeting weekly and just building a community of students who are interested in the field. Um, when it comes to memorable moments, I'd say the one that always sticks up to me was our very first event where we had about 12 to 13 staff members at 11 p.m. on a Friday night working together and solving a bunch of problems on a call. That one moment I would not forget. It was just cool seeing these IT managers and staff and from all kinds of IT teams across campus just coming together to work on problems. Uh, that was definitely a memorable moment. When it comes to challenges, I'd say a very cool challenge that we were able to solve I think on the very first few days was a website was a how was it? How would I describe it? It was exploiting HTTP requests and responses from servers to identify unique identifiers of players and then duplicating those to keep going up in a game. So it was basically a website that simulated a game, a competition, and you were going against people who you were guaranteed to lose against. But if you were to clone their unique identifier and act as them, you could keep going up in ranks until you went against someone who you were supposed to identify. Uh, it's a hard way of explaining it, but it was definitely a team effort of one person finding out a specific clue about how this UID is, and then someone else using a proxy to change up the UID and going against new members and just keeping on slowly building up. That was a very cool challenge that we ended up figuring out. When it comes to advice, I'd say it is very intimidating. It took me a very long time, and I saw such a long way to go. But understanding that it is hard and it's baby steps, and you some days, some competitions, you might not even get any problems, and that's okay. Uh, it's it's knowing the resources that are out there, and so for example, we have Pico CTF is a website that we've used to try out problems from very basic problems to hard, challenging problems. And I can mention these resources on the chat maybe later down. Uh, Practicing those and then using platforms like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box to build up on particular skills like web hacking or reverse engineering or just understanding the basics of Linux has been very helpful as well. And I have there's so many avenues to explore, and having something like CTF challenges to motivate you to keep getting better is very rewarding to me. So yeah, I think I answered most of these questions.
Well said, Tim, and we're very proud of you for your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Jessica, what do you think?
Yeah. I find it kind of ironic. I was also very involved in student clubs. I'm also a McMaster alumni. However, I did two health science related, my undergrad and master's. Um, so I think this is a great example of how CTFs are not just for the traditional IT person. As Greg said, we're all kind of nerds. And a lot of my side interests and a lot of employment outside of my education was always with a technical lens. And I've always really enjoyed looking at how I can blend IT with topics I'm interested in. And that really does help me engage and learn. So that definitely motivated me for joining the CTF team because cybersecurity is something that's very prevalent in the work I do within the Faculty of Science from an educational and a prevention and response lens. But it also, I think, is very helpful to be able to explain to others why the CTF might be a useful thing to even participate in once, just to get an understanding of what kind of things are possible from a more offensive cybersecurity uh, place. So that definitely was part of that, but also, as Tim mentioned, the community aspect and the gamification side of things. I've always really enjoyed doing hands-on learning. I was the person who would never really read the guide when they used to come in physical game cartridges with a guide for video games. I did not usually read that guide. I liked jumping in and learning. So that definitely, that aspect of CTFs I've really enjoyed because you can really jump in and see what you're able to tackle without maybe having a specific base knowledge coming into it. And working with others outside of my Faculty of Science team has been really nice as well. And a lot of other non-technical employees. We've definitely been able to bring in a lot of individuals who have never really considered themselves IT employees in the past. In terms of CTF experiences and what they've been like, as Tim mentioned, some of them are very difficult, and that's okay. We've definitely had our fair share of giving it a really good shot. You can kind of see through Discord and the chats for each challenge. We usually make a channel, sub-channel per challenge. You can either see how we worked through it and solved it, or how we kept going and slowly lost our mind and then called it for that challenge for that competition. So it's definitely a mix, but the ability to go through and see if there's maybe other write-ups that are similar to the challenge that we're tackling. That's always been really, it's been very helpful, and using other tools. But I'll delve a bit more into that when we're talking about advice. In terms of memorable events, we definitely have a lot of them. Some of them, as Greg mentioned, the wee hours of the morning when you're still trying to get a challenge. We keep bringing up the Florida State CTF. It was called Swamp CTF. There was a particular OSINT challenge that we were trying to find a restaurant that was near, it was near a house that we had found in a previous challenge, and there was a swamp restaurant really nearby, but it wasn't the flag solution, and I was very upset that they did not use the swamp restaurant for the swamp CTF. It was probably because it was a little too obvious, but I felt like it was a missed moment. Um, and kind of in that vein, my favorite type of CTFs challenges are typically OSINT challenges, so the open source intelligence. Um, I joke it's the FBI girl, the bringing my being creepy skills into a practical context. If anyone's ever seen Rainbolt videos where he just knows where he is in the world because it's a screenshot from Google Earth, it is very similar. A lot of using tools that, again, everyone has access to. I have not used a single paid option to solve these challenges, and it's a little disturbing how easily you can find exact physical locations with one screenshot and maybe the context of what state it's in. You can find out a lot about where someone lives based on the garbage cans on their street in the States, for example. So I think it's very helpful bringing that back as well. Just that never ending, if you put it on the internet, it's going to be there forever. Warning, I think it hits a bit harder when we're talking about CTF challenges and approaching it in that way. And then just for advice, I mentioned kind of looking for similar challenges. I will often look at other write-ups to see if someone has solved something in a similar way. The steganography ones in particular, you can hide messages within images, you can hide messages within audio files. Like there's a lot of really cool ways to hide information. And that's looking at how someone else solves something is very helpful. I've also used AI to help me code because I don't do Python very often. Yeah, and then also just looking at uh, like doing it as a team is also very helpful. So that again, the rubber ducky, I have my giant one here, but like actually using your team to do that in a team context is very helpful as well.
Well, thank you, Jessica. And yeah, you do terrify me a little bit with how well you can find information online, like the Liam Nielsen of CTF events. She will find you. So thank you both for that perspective. And yeah, why CTFs? Why are we investing our time in these? And I think each of us will take a minute to talk about one of these. But from where I sit in central IT, cybersecurity training can be very expensive, and a lot of the training that we pay for and engage in is this kind of unidirectional, almost talking textbook. And I spent the first half of my career developing e-learning resources for the university and working with instructors. And the message time and time again is that hands-on learning is the way to go, or what we sometimes call problem-based learning here at the university. And we know that some of our university colleagues in Toronto and some of the big cybersecurity programs, they've got great cyber ranges where you can get into some real serious attack and defense scenarios. But the CTFs offer a free, almost free, I say low cost alternative to that, where there's no admission fee, and there's often great prizes too. Google is and Amazon and Meta, they're often big sponsors where the winning team, which we've never been close, but the winning team can walk away with $5,000 to $10,000. And these competitions, they provide that alternative perspective on vulnerabilities, attack vectors, and defensive tactics. When you go to a self-defense course like, karate or jujitsu or Krav Maga, of course, they teach you the theory, but they also teach you what kind of practical attacks to expect and thus defend against. Well, in the cyber world, it's sometimes difficult to know how to defend unless you're aware of how you might be attacked. And that's what these events can give you a perspective on by putting on that red hat, or not, sorry, not red hat like the company, but by putting on the red team perspective. It helps you, in my opinion, become a better blue team member. So that's number one, what I think. And hey, Tim, do you want to talk about the second point?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, having a role where it was split into two teams on campus, you can sometimes see the different approaches that both teams have. And when you compete together and bring those two different approaches, normally you notice that maybe one approach to a IT problem might be better. And I guess that's a very cool, it's having a means where managers and staff from all across campus come together, have fun playing and solving problems, but also having conversations about how they approach their day-to-day challenges in their roles. Uh, there's a lot to learn from there, and at McMaster, one of our policies or goals is a one IT community, and I very much see that in participating and just working together on competitions. There's so much to learn from each other, and we strive and work towards that by competing like this. So yeah, I
Very,
think that's number two.
very well said, Tim. And I think all of the universities, or everyone who's in attendance here, can attest to the challenges of our decentralized environments. And as you've mentioned, these competitions help shift the focus away from a sibling rivalry to a
Right.
neighborhood rivalry. And actually, one of my hopes from this talk today, if anyone in the audience is listening, let's help you get your own team started so that McMaster now has another university in Ontario or Canada to compete against. We know the benefit of collegiate sports in building that cohesive school spirit. Well, hey, let's do that for IT as well. Thank you, Tim. Great. And Jess, do you want to talk about that third
Yeah.
point, which is really salient in this day and age?
Yes. So, as everyone's probably aware, Gen AI has rapidly become a pretty large concern for a lot of individuals, and rightly so. Uh, the ability of it to, as the slide says, lower the bar for threat actors, the required knowledge to enter kind of a malicious way of approaching other existing defense systems. It's a lot lower now because of the ability to use AI as a tool to help you learn, to help you craft code in particular. Uh, and yeah, the ways that AI can be used, whether it's prompt injection, it's not necessarily just how it's weaponized as a learning tool, it's also how it can be used to crawl for data, how you can modify data sets that AI's using. There's a lot of concerns regarding already how AI, like if you're using an AI with a biased data set, how that might impact, let's say we're using it in a research context to make conclusions. That can be very harmful and not really an overt breaking in and hacking way. It's more of a cultural long-term impact that we need to be cognizant of. So yeah, there's definitely things, and with privacy of AI, like learning about how the data is used, I think it's very important that anytime we're discussing AI, we talk about it holistically, because you're not ever really sure how the AI is going to be using, if it is using your data, and what is it, who's it sending it to, how is it using to train its own database. Um, and I think it's also important to be aware of if you have an existing agreement with a vendor, sometimes they change how they're using your data without really letting you know. So it's really important to be always aware of it and it's the could versus should of why am I using AI? How is it integrated into my workflows? And yeah, CTFs definitely amplify just how dangerous it can be, even if there are barriers that are supposed to make it less harmful. They're very easy to get around sometimes.
Yeah, that practical hands-on approach to bypassing those barriers and seeing how it can be weaponized is not to be understated, because I think the message I've gotten from CTFs around Gen AI is that we need to increase our due diligence, that there is a now much larger field of threat actors out there who, are knocking at our door. So I'll now take a moment and I'll break from PowerPoint to give people a quick tour of our CTF SharePoint site and show people how we help our members prepare for these events and learn from them. Because if you discover, oh, I'm interested in cryptography through these events, how can you take that interest further to advance your professional understanding of that particular topic? So I'm going to reshare my screen now over to SharePoint. Can everybody see that all right? All right, so you're looking at McMaster's SharePoint site, and Jess, maybe do you want to mention quickly why we like SharePoint as our CTF
Yes.
host?
We are Microsoft Campus, so in the fact that Microsoft, it's the tool we use Teams primarily for communication, but there's a lot of benefits to SharePoint in particular, the content types. You can have a lot of dynamic content. So for example, we have our events list at the bottom. It's not something that has to be manually updated. If an event is added, it populates. We have a lot of different page types as well. So there's a lot of flexibility with this platform, but we're also able to restrict access in very fine-tuned ways. Right now, we do not have groups set up for this site access. It's something we're going to be moving to, but in terms of who's an owner, who is a member, and who's a viewer, even the baseline tiers of access to this SharePoint, it allows you to allow people to contribute, but also restrict to view only. So there are a lot of options. And because of this is a communication site, it's also a very user-friendly web editor. So if you're not someone who's very familiar with coding, WordPress, even the Gutenberg builder in WordPress can be a bit overwhelming. This is a visual builder, so it allows you to synchronously build content and know how it's going to look. So it's a little more flexible in that way.
Microsoft really should pay you for that SharePoint promotion. Yes,
There are
and
things that obviously are somewhat of a limitation, but because for our purpose, it definitely is fitting the bill and it's something we already pay for. So gotta love that.
you got it. So when a new member is interested in our community and in CTFs, they're invited to the SharePoint site. This isn't open to the entire community. It's an invitation only, but we have no restrictions on who will let in as long as you have a relationship to the university. And of course, if you want to actually compete, then we ask that you go into the member list. I'm not going to show who it is just for privacy reasons, but that's where we track the Discord username and the real username so that there's that level of accountability. But as a new member, you might want to hop into the simulations and competitions and see what are some of the things that are available for individuals to learn about. And of course, these are the CTF challenges that you can do on your own time, asynchronously, with no cost and really various levels of skill. And of course, GPT can walk you through all of that. We also show people kind of what the team and group ones are. So CTF time is kind of like the ESPN of CTFs. We have our own team ranking in here. You can see some of them we've done well at, some of them we haven't. But CTF time will also show what all of the upcoming CTFs are, of which there's, I think, two happen, three, four, several happening this weekend, but they're occurring throughout the year and throughout the world. And as a community, we will talk on Discord about which ones we want to participate in. We also, of course, offer backdoors and breaches sessions. If anyone knows what that game is, a lot of fun for competitive learning, but within a controlled environment. So going back to our example of cryptography, let's say you really sink your teeth into one of these cryptography challenges and you love it. You want to learn more. We've provided a learning index in here that is really a kind of a side door to our library resources. And our library resources at the university include licensing for things like the O'Reilly collection. So all of these different categories of information security and as well as some learning plan templates sit here on the learning resource. And if I click on cryptography, it'll bring up a little description of what it is, some skill development questions that if you can answer those, you may know about it, and then links to the different resources that are available to all of our learners. So, what library books and videos are available, journals, Wikipedia articles, Canadian Center for Cyber, NIST. I'm thinking maybe we should look on the Alliance as well. You've probably got some good talks. The O'Reilly collection in particular is what we want to point people towards because, well, these books are typically expensive and we have a license for them through our library. So the learning index is really helpful. And we also have a resource index where, of course, we have to include all of the important policies, procedures, and guidelines. We want to make sure people are competing safely and fairly, but we help open the door to what cybersecurity can be for different groups. So, what are the different frameworks, glossaries? How should you think about ethics, certifications, if you really like it? The certification map right here is something else. I had no idea there were this many different cybersecurity certifications, but we lay them all out. And actually, we have some study groups happening. One of them's happening tonight for the CISP. We have guidance on GPT for CTF. We alluded to that earlier, where we've got our prompt injection playbook. If people are trying to do some AI jailbreaking, we share what the general approach is, how to recon the guardrails, and then the different techniques that are involved in how to get around. And of course, referencing everything back to OWASP in hopes that people will take this and go down the rabbit hole. And of course, the different prompts for things like OSINT or web exploitation. I'm working on a web-based CTF challenge. The site runs on insert language. What are the common enumeration steps using Kali Linux tools or manual inspection in a browser? How can I systematically uncover hidden directories, parameters, or potential vulnerabilities? And boy, howdy, will it walk you through that. And of course, everyone who's used a GPT before knows you can go as far as you want down that rabbit hole. We also list off podcasts, configuration benchmarks with if we ever get to a point where we're going to do attack and defense style CTFs, this will be really critical for looking for weak points in servers, courses within the university, and then a deeper dive into some of the different policy documents, research documents that are out there. And we also list off all of the red team tools that are available through Kali Linux so that people have a better understanding of not only what they can use for competition, but also what are some of the tools that are being pointed at us as an institution? What are some of the weapons that we are defending against in our everyday cybersecurity? And for those that are interested on the call, we've summarized the entire website into the site index right here that contains a list of all of the content in this site. More than happy to share the index with you. Obviously, access to the site can be a bit tricky, but if it's something that you're looking to clone for your own institution, if you're, from a university that's thinking, hey, this CTF stuff doesn't sound bad, I'd like to participate, you can reach out to McMaster, and I'm sure our CTO's office would be more than happy to talk about what it takes to get this copied over to your institution. So that is a tour of our SharePoint site. And now with that, I think we can open up the floor for some questions. We've got a little bit of time left.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg, Jessica, and Tim for the wonderful session. Yeah, we can open up the Q&A session. You can put your question in the chat or in the Q&A function for Zoom. And also, if you want to have a live question, you can raise your hand and ask the question. I think there was one question from Jeff. And that was, I think, answered by Tim. The question was, in terms of finding CTF, what is the primary source you use? Tim, I think you provided the link for the main source.
Yeah, it says CTF time is what we use, and that is again kind of like the ESPN of or TSN in Canada here of CTF events, and we try to look for university hosted events. There's a number of ones that can be, security groups will host them or other like renowned CTF teams. I'm not afraid of them, but we like to go to university events because we know there will be a little more accountability, if you will, because it's another educational institution. And we also like supporting our own. Academia, we need to look out for each other.
Okay. There is another anonymous question that says, you mentioned podcast in your resource list. Can you share an example?
Oh, yes, I would love to share an example. Let me share my screen again, and I'll bring you back to that. All right, is it showing up all right? So we have listed off a collection of podcasts in here. My personal favorites, it's at the top, Darknet Diaries, Malicious Life, Risky Business, Security Now, Cyberwire, but we go down the list and yeah, there's a lot of different podcasts here. So each one of these will link you to that particular podcast. Darknet Diaries, really great one if you're not listening, who the host is, and can meet people where they're at in terms of I guess interests and skill. Darknet Diaries is probably the most accessible of them. And then of course you can get into more technical ones like Security Now or SANS Institute. You can get some really serious technical details in there.
Thank you for that. There's another question that, does McMaster plan to host on a CTF soon?
That's ambitious, and I would love to do that. We may start with an OSINT CTF, just because that's a little bit easier to and arguably safer to put together than things like reverse engineering or hacking. But for the time being, there are so many really good ones out there at other universities. We're putting our efforts into growing our own community and bringing people together and finding good competitions that we can do our best to participate in and crush. But won't rule out the idea of hosting our own. It's a lot of work to set up. There's a lot of infrastructure that you have to get going, the servers, the competition interface, and then you have to design the challenges and design them in a way like an escape room where people will be able to solve it, but not too quickly.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions or feedback or any comments?
Is there anyone interested in maybe joining as a observer? If there's someone who's maybe thinking of sitting at the sidelines, I don't know if this is for me. More than happy to have you tag along at some point in the future. We can certainly open the door for a weekend and help you see what it's actually like. If you're interested, I'm going to drop my email into the chat. We're happy to talk about sharing the resources that you saw today or sharing the experience. I think we have a vested interest in each other's cybersecurity here as a nation, as a community of research institutes. So, let's join arms, and if we can also ideally maybe set up another team somewhere else that we can compete against. I think Waterloo has a student cybersecurity team that does CTFs. I know for sure U of T does. U of T actually hosts a CTF. I think they were the second one we participated in. So got a little competition out there. And I should also give a shout out. One of the number one teams in the world is at UBC, actually, Team Maple Bacon. And when the big events roll around, it's not uncommon to see them in the top 10.
I
Go,
think we have
go
some interest
UBC.
from, yeah, absolutely. We have from Mikhail, I think he's interested. So
All right, well, reach out to me via email, Kyle, and we'll see what we can do to get you on board.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you so much for hosting us and for your time and support. And thank you everybody who came out. We hope to see you out there on the digital playing field at some point in the future.
On behalf of the Alliance, we thank all the presenters for this great session, and for everyone joining these sessions. Thank you for joining us and for your enthusiasm. We have upcoming sessions as well. This will run as part of the Cybersecurity Training and Awareness Month. And the 3 next sessions on October 27, 28, and 30, you can scan the QR code, and I have also pasted the link to register for these sessions in the chat. And any questions or any feedback that you might have for our training and awareness team, cybersecurity team, the email is given here. I can paste that in the chat as well. So thank you everyone for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day.